funny. We're live. Excuse me, 5:03. How's everybody doing? Tonight we want to talk about a number of things. Actually, the first thing is I wanted to let everybody know that the Street Alpha podcast, the interview that I did when I went out to see Jimmy, we drove to Florida and did a swamp boat ride and all that stuff. It was awesome. But one of the things we did while I was there was, in fact, that's the reason that we went out. We went out to visit Took and get his sit down with him at this very cool I think it's very cool JDM place. It had a whole bunch of cool Supras and NSXs and a very cool Nissan truck, all kinds of great stuff. But we sat down, he did an interview, so he was he's not real fluent on LS stuff, so he was asking all the right questions that a guy that's getting into this, and those are the kind of guys that we want. We want guys, not particularly him. I mean, he's a great guy. It was awesome to be there, but we want new guys getting into the industry, not just LS, but anything. So I would have lots of questions for him about the RB stuff, because I haven't seen particular, regimented tests and stuff. So, and he's built a really nice one. So I just would have questions about that. I'd like to get, more information on boost levels and turbos and all kinds of stuff that he's done on that. So it was very, very cool. But that's up. So I recommend go check it out. It's fairly long. I was there for quite a while. So, but we covered a lot of stuff. We covered camshafts, we covered turbos, we covered intercoolers, covered throttle bodies, intake manifolds, all kinds of stuff. So basically everything that a person might want to know about LS stuff. That's on the deal, and so that was fun. The next thing that we want to talk about is, so I go check it out. He has the full video is up on YouTube, and then he's showing some clips on social media, which is very, very cool. So I'll try to get I might post something. I'll probably post something tomorrow that has links to that, so guys can get to it and I can help steer people over there. But it was a fun deal. We did shout outs to a lot of good guys, Shane and Matt and various people. So it was pretty cool. One of the other things I guess we have to talk about, because it's been, I see it. I can't believe some of the discourse that's happening here. I'm sure by now you guys know that Brian Tooley Racing has been sold. Now, this is the second time it's been sold, technically, because he sold it as an ESOP to the employees. So the employees own Brian Tooley Racing. So it's not Brian. And so then I guess private equity bought it from the because it's not him anymore, but private equity bought it from the employers. Or the employees. And so that's really good for the employees. So the guys that were loyal to BTR and stayed there, they obviously gained the most and stuff. And that's all fantastic. But if you read about it on social media, you see that it's just like, oh, this is the beginning of the end or whatever. So I want to get other people's opinion about that. So that will be our poll. For tonight, I think we'll have a little BTR poll here. Okay. Or let's see, do it this way. Okay, will the private equity buyout of Brian Tooley Racing hurt the company's sales or product quality? So do you think it's going to hurt them because private equity has bought them? Let me know. Let me know in the poll. I'm curious to see. I see a lot of doom and gloom out there on social media. I'm just surprised that everybody, and I think that some of this is that some people post about it and they see that it got a lot of likes or a lot of response or whatever. And then so other people kind of jumped on the bandwagon. Hey, stir up the pot or whatever, a little hornet's nest or something. I'm just curious to see what people think about it. Do you guys think, and let me know in the comments, do you guys think that, I know that private equity in some of these instances where they've bought up some of these companies and groups of these companies that, you worry that the people in the private equity, they tend to be interested in the bottom line because that's why they bought it. They did this as a money-making thing, and they don't care about that. This would be my concern, is that if they did do that, and they're worried about the bottom line, the things that people do to adjust the bottom line can be actually detrimental to the company. So Brian cares about making good products. I mean, he has gone out of his way to design and redesign and make better versions of camshafts and all kinds of things. So he's like a real performance guy, and he cares about that, and he wants to deliver a good product. I don't know that private equity always is that they feel the same way. So that would be my concern, is that he's not going to be. And I think he's staying there, so hopefully he'll still be in control, and this won't be an issue. But I'm hoping that that's the thing, and that's kind of the thing that I'm concerned about. But you guys let me know, and let me know what you think, because we've seen this with other some of these other companies where private equity has bought them, and it's caused problems. Or somebody let me know in the comments if you've seen private equity buy out some of these companies and it's made them stronger, maybe because they had an influx of capital or whatever, and it helped the company out and they became better. Maybe a management team came in and reorganized things. I don't know. There could be a lot of things that could be beneficial for that. I'm just kind of curious, because I've had a couple of people ask me, well, how does this affect you? I said, it doesn't affect me at all, because I'm not part of Tooley Racing. I'm not part of that. We're a dealer like a lot of other people are. I'm sure they have a ton of dealers. And so, if that would be the only way that something like that could affect us, is if we were, I guess, no longer dealers for whatever reason. I don't know really why private equity or anybody else would do that. I don't know why they'd have any sort of issue with the dealer program. It seems like it helps sales for them, but you just never know. So no, we're not concerned about it. We have our own stuff, and that's not really a problem. So I'm not too concerned about that, but I mean, and some of the interesting comments are like, I can't believe he's selling out or whatever. I'm like, dude, the guy's been in this industry for 30 plus years or whatever. Nobody's going to be in this industry forever. I'm not going to be doing YouTube and stuff forever. Nobody's going to be doing that. You can't, things change, things evolve. I don't know that I don't have any plans of giving this up, though. I kind of like it, and I do like testing and stuff. So I guess we'll see how all that goes. But nobody works forever. You can't keep working until doing the same. No, not very many people I know keep doing the same thing until they're 100 or whatever. Let's assume that we're gonna live till we're 100. I guess if you stay healthy, that all works out. One of the other things I want to talk about, and we'll probably do this on another live feed, is we'll do that on another live feed. I saw a product that I was a little bit confused about. I wasn't confused about why they would sell it, because I knew that it would sell. I just confused as to whether or not it did anything. And so we'll talk about that maybe on another day. The other thing I want to ask is, on the thumbnail that I have up is Jimmy swapping a motor into the Tahoe. And so I wanted to find out from you guys that we're at the end of the year, basically. I mean, we've got 25 or 26 days left of this month, and that's December, and that's it of 2025. And so do you guys still have projects? I know at a lot of places in the country, it's getting cold here, but not cold. I mean, it's 43, I think, here. So it's cold, but not cold. I mean, I still wear shorts and stuff when I'm out running and riding a bike and stuff, but it's, are people still working on projects? Do you guys have projects that will, and this will be our next poll. We'll have multiple polls tonight, I guess. See how our poll is doing. Will private equity buyout of Brian Tooley Racing hurt the company's sales or product or quality? Is there a split 2/3, 1/3 kind of? Okay. So we'll let that go for a couple more minutes and then we'll do another one. Do you guys have projects that you're still working on? Do you think you have projects? Does anybody have projects you think will finish in December before 2026, before the end of the year? I'm curious. I want to get the I kind of want to get the either the Metro running with the Holly or the Sprint running with the Holly, just so that it runs and fires up. I'm gonna have to take it down to Ish, and so he can do the Haltech on it, and then with the Sprint Turbo anyway. But the Metro, I'm thinking if we get it running with a Honda, I'm going to take it to Jimmy's and we're going to go put a turbo on it and do stuff like that. Just do fun stuff on the dyno. But I just want to get rid of it basically. Send it out to Georgia. Maybe we'll give it away or crush it or beat it up or do a sledgehammer test on it or something like that. Maybe we'll do we could do a dyno day at Richard Holder Performance East. And then maybe take sledgehammers to it or something. I don't know, it'd be kind of fun. We'll see. Well, private equity buyout of Brian Tooley Racing hurt the company 72.28. So it's going more in the, yeah, I think it's not going to be good. Let's see what you guys got going on today. David Esmond, what's going on? Gator. Daughter and me are out in the shop about to start working on my wife's LS swap pickup. What pickup is it? Thomas, what's going on? I want to purchase whatever cams and setup you use on your TPI motor. Can you send me a link to your site or give me the name of the cam I should buy? We don't, the name of the shop or the name of the store is richardholderperformance.com. I don't have that. We answered your email. I gave Jimmy the cam that we ran, that I thought that we ran on the tune port, because it's not even listed in the notes. But I gave you a tune port cam that will work. Because there's no special cam for that. You can run the stock cam, you could run a kind of milder performance cam in there, and it will work. But we don't sell those because we don't have cams for small block Chevys. We only have LS cams. But Comp has them, and then other people too do. I might not send you directly to Comp. That you could look around and you might find something that's less money, but something similar in performance. A 212, 218. Duration at 50 would be a good cam for that. Cost cutting measures in place with the buyout, just like every company. Oh, you're talking about Brian Tooley Racing? 75.25. So now we're 3/4 yes. Okay. Private equity is the devil. I think quality will remain until it doesn't, if he's not directly involved. He continues to be directly involved, so we'll see how that goes. Brian Tooley sold TrickFlow and TEA. Brian Tooley didn't own TrickFlow. Summit owned TrickFlow. Brian Tooley did own Total Engineer Flow, though. Serious is proof they bleed them dry. Historically, private equity doesn't focus on customer service or innovation. I was part of this, and that they focus so much on profit that quality and relationship with customers went down in the tank. Yeah, you don't want that to happen. I mean, because the interesting thing that I find about that is that when you're looking at, and maybe that's why I'm not in finance, but you look at the things that made a company successful and that attractive to somebody that wants to buy it, and then you come in and you get rid of those things. That just doesn't seem to make sense. Scottish, what's going on? I'm very scared. This is the sloppy beginning. Nothing's good. It's going to come of this. Greedy people. The sale of the company is not about greed. So I don't understand that. So you're saying that all the people that work at BTR are greedy? I don't think that that's the case. If it is to get money to make his brand have more production. No, I don't think that's it. Listening to Street Alpha podcast, very good so far. Yeah, he did a good job. That was fun. Working on a 327 right now. Nice. Is it a small block Chevy? Two at the same time. Stupid cold here in Indiana. Yeah, I bet it does get cold there. My nephew, I guess, went to school there. New way for me to check tracking on the camshaft. I have an entire front end I have to do by then. Coolant leak, front differential, and valve springs and cool. Yeah, let me see what's going on. I don't know if Jimmy even sent me the shipping for that. Let me remind him. We had a lot of shipping that had to be done after Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So let me check. I'll just remind him. If all my parts come in, I'll have the truck done. Are the AFR 1506 comparable to 799 or better? I don't know what an AFR 1506 is. I don't know what head that is. BTR cam heads intake. New trans on my 2500 Yukon before the new year. Before the new year, there's not a lot of time left. That's pretty adventurous. If I had $1 for every time private equity made a company better for consumers, I would have $0. That's pretty good. I like that. That's clever. Sadly, no. I wish I could finish. Still selling parts I don't need. Then I can start buying. There you go. Just did a Corvette servo, my 4060. Very nice upgrade. You should look into that for your website. It's a very cheap and nice upgrade. A Corvette servo, yeah. I'm interested also in. I was reading a lot of stuff online about different tunes for 4L60s and 4L80s for making them survive, more powerful stuff. And in the 4L80 case, it would be for turbo stuff, but for the 4L60, even cams and things. I'm swapping an Atlas 5-cylinder, okay, in a 48 rat rod. Plan on running it by Christmas. Nice. Replacing the turbo EFI slant 6 that was in it. Okay, yeah, the Atlas should be a good bit stronger than that, I would think. Need to get my Maverick back on the road, fix all the rust, put the 351 in, then get an F-150 for my fake Boss 429. Goals for 2026. Good. Floorboards and a 240Z. There you go. Common rust problem with those. TEA was a head porting service. Yeah, Total Engine Airflow did porting on a variety of different cylinder heads. Watching your interview on the podcast reminded me of the old Honda Tech days when someone was NA and went turbo with a Skunk 2 Pro 1s and then swapped the turbo cams and lost power. Just prove all cams work. Yeah, whatever cams that you'd be comparing there, the ones that make the least NA power also make the least amount of power under boost at any given boost level. Small Chevy 327, 27, 20 over. Yep. You don't see a lot of or nearly as many 327 builds as you see 350s and 383s. Trying to get my 91 Camaro. Looking forward dropping a short stroke 400. Okay, so you're doing a 372 or 377, depending on the bore. Building the 416 LS3, PRC heads -3. Okay, so that's a flat top with valve release. It's going to buy a BTR Stage 2 LS3 cam. What would you suggest? Pressure is going to be around 13-1. Planning an E85. Well, are you wanting to make a lot of power? I think I would go bigger in the cam. I mean, if you have valve release in it, you should put a big cam in it. Unless you want it to drive around nice and stuff. I mean, 13-1 is not usually what people do when they're building drive around kind of motors. They're usually a little more serious. And so you can put a big cam in it and it will still work. Like I'd look at it as Stage 4 LS3 from BTR. That's a good cam, makes good power. Think twins with a dump out of each fender and twin nitrous purges will look super intimidating at a stoplight. Oh yeah, no, that's all. That's good for the looks. And then when you do the purge, You also have to light up the little neon lights too, so that it does that. Hoping for 600 flywheel. Yeah, I need to look at the specs of the stage 2 cam and see. Certainly with that stage 4 cam, you'd get 600 flywheel pretty easily. Probably more than that. Probably a good bit more than that. I gotta send Jimmy a email. And a cage to my truck over the winter, and a few more upgrades for 2026 6 Michigan miles. Okay, cool. How is your thing running, Tom? Have you ever had that on the dyno? Well, I think was I supposed to call you? I think I missed a call to you. What should I put in my 94 Silverado extended? Current is a 4.3. I want 600 horsepower. It's going to be hard to get with a 4.3. So if you're going to put something else in there, an LS is easy, obviously. Probably the easiest way to get 600. Tangeray, nice. Little Tangeray and tonic. Little TNT. Mr. TNT. My wife's making something, some drink that she tried first for Thanksgiving. It was awesome. So I'm like, yeah, we should have more of those. What are the specs on the G42 turbo, like size-wise? I bought one from you, but don't know size of compressor and turbine things. All of that stuff is if you go to the store, all of the specs of the turbo are listed under G42 turbo. 4-wheel launches, twin dumps, nitrous purges, muscle truck. There you go. All of that will work. If you can get the all-wheel drive to work and launch it like that, good things happen. It's just easy to break stuff, though. Put blue LED light next to my purge line by my windshield. It looks so cool at night. The light only was on when I pressed the purge button. Yeah, that's cool. That's kind of the go-to for nitrous stuff. I've seen some really clever ones. Chad's was his blew out of his antenna because he has the telescopic antenna on that wagon that Daphne had. And so that was pretty cool. There's all kinds of good ones. I've seen them blow out the little snake eyes or the teeth, and you got to be clever with it. And then if you got LED lights or flames or I don't know, dancing hula girls or whatever, all of that's just nothing but good. I can't wait I want to take now that it's cold, I want to take the Omni back out. It has a water leak it's at the bottom of the water pump. So I think it's a water pump gasket. Maybe, and it looks like there's silicone there. So I'm wondering if there's just silicone or if there is a gasket between. There's supposed to be a gasket between the pump and assembly and the block. Purging out the top of the antenna is genius. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Probably planning on swapping to a manual 4x4 transfer case and differentials from a 2500 3500 and built for L80. There's a weep hole there. Is that what it is? But the water pump is new though. So I don't think it's that. I mean, I think that the water pump is new. I think we put a new water pump in it. I guess you're not allowed to flamethrower with your purgings. Well, it won't light on fire. You have to have something else to do that because nitrous isn't flammable. Converter number 3 in my Sierra. Not sure what's going on, but it's like no one can build a decent converter for under $1,000 anymore. Yeah. We would like to, Jimmy and I talked about doing this. We'd like to find a converter source for people. We'd like to get like a 2500 stall converter, an inexpensive one to match the cam. I mean, it's not necessary for the cam, but the cam can be used with a stock converter. But a 2500 stall converter in anything, in any 4.8 or 5.3, especially a 4.8 or 6.0, would help performance a lot. And so, but we just don't want to. We don't want to sell a $400 converter. We'd like to find something that's lower cost than that we can offer, but we haven't run across that yet. I just need to, yeah, I'll check and see. I don't, like I said, I think it's a new pump. So I don't think that the hole would be open. So with an 800 horsepower four-wheel drive with twin turbos, what stall would you recommend? I'm thinking 3,400. What do you say? None of the stuff that you told me there dictates what stall to use. So we would need the motor size and the cam size. And then also gearing probably would help. An intake manifold, I'd want to know. We'll be running a G42 on a 6.2 with 2 of the wastegates. Should be a good combo for a Trans Am. Yeah, that turbo will make a lot of power. I mean, it'll do it on a 6.2. It'll do it on anything, but it'll make a lot of power. And in a Trans Am, that'll be fun. Doesn't Circle D make one for Summit for like 600 or 700? Yeah, what's a converter normally cost? I mean, are they $400? Are they $1,400? Are they $2,400? Purpose is to let you know something isn't right. Yeah. But I don't, like I said, I don't know why a new one would do that. I mean, I know E-poles are, and we've used them in other pumps before. We've seen them in other pumps and run across them working the way that they're supposed to in other pumps. Toyota says it's normal for the water pump to weep out of the drain hole. They said that will leak when debris is between the shaft and the seal until the debris comes out the seal. I wouldn't doubt that there would be there could be debris in there, judging by how old this motor is and all of the rust and stuff that was in there. I have a Gen 4 4.8 799 heads. I want to replace it with ported 706 heads to take advantage of the VVT with a higher lift cam. Is that a good idea? There's no VVT on a Gen 4 4.8 that I'm aware of. Are you adding VVT to it? 900 Circle D. Okay. Do not go with a TCI bolt together converter. They do not offer any parts besides in-house, so can't make changes at home with it. Yeah, we wouldn't go that route. Westech had done a bunch of TCI converter stuff with some of the magazine guys, and they just didn't have good success. L20 with VVT, but no DOD. An L20 had VVT. A 4.8, they made a VVT, a factory VVT 4.8. I'm going to look that up. Because I'm just not aware of it. I mean, I'm aware of an L20. I've heard of that before. Where's my on all cylinders? Here we go. They have a lot of, Brian and those guys did a lot of good stuff there. It replaced the LY2. It was upgraded with variable valve time and flex fuel. Wow. See, that's why I come here, man. Available in GM pickups and vans until 2014. It's known as a VORTECH 4800. Very cool. I didn't even know that was a thing. So if you were trying to make something that would get good fuel mileage, that's the one I would pick. I mean, I'd pick something that had higher static compression than that. And it was factory rated as high as 300 horsepower. Wow. That's a lot for an L20. Talk to Yank Converter to see if they can do a converter. I've watched almost every engine test you've done. One test I haven't seen is what happens to power curve with a small cam and short runner. If you have a motor that has a small cam in it and it has a long runner, and then you put a short runner on it, it can make more peak power, but it's going to lose power through most of the curve. 6-liter, 823 heads, 2600 Edelbrock. Never put on a dyno. This motor, maybe the wife will get me a dyno for Christmas. Well, a 2650 can make a lot of power on that 6-liter. Had an FL performance converter first, lasted a few years, had it rebuilt, lasted a week. They were no help. Is Brian still running things, or is he? No, he's not gone. He's still in charge at BTR. I mean, it would be foolish of them to get rid of him because he's the one that has run the company. Brand new parts with bad seals, 2025 stuff. Oh, so you think the thing could be bad? I'm ultimately going to take it off and look at it and see. Last one was a Chicago performance converter, lasted 6 months, then started locking up when it felt like an arbitrary lockup. That's the thing I'm worried about, is I don't want to get involved in stuff because I don't have a lot of experience. I mean, we've changed converters and things, but I don't have a lot of experience with what converters do and how they do it. And we just don't want to have products that have problems. Do you have any good engine people here in Florida to punch out a 6-liter to a 408? I don't know of any shops or anything in Florida. Australia's in the house. What's going on, man? But there should be a lot of stuff in Florida, right? I mean, isn't Cletus there? That Yank will work with you to make an RHP 2500 converter. What's going on with the fancy heads? Yeah, I haven't tested any of them yet. They did promise me a set to run because I want to do that 4.8, but honestly, I think I'll probably just do it with these trick flow heads. $79.21. Okay, so we're going to end our poll there. So it's like 80-20. So truck is nothing radical. 4,500 pounds, LQ4, XR 275 cam, LT headers, exhaust 373s, 330 wheel horsepower. It's fun daily driver, doesn't get race. That's a good combo though. Okay, so going back to this L20 thing, what was the question up there? I want to take advantage of the VVT with a higher lift cam. So Javier, you want to have some sort of custom cam done that's still a VVT cam that only has higher lift than the factory one? I don't think you gain much from lift only, if that's what your question is. Otherwise, you probably have enough piston to valve clearance to put, I'm sure that there are other VVT cams that are available for the Gen 4 motor. And so the problem though is that as you go up in performance of the camshaft, that you limit the amount of swing that you can have for variable valve timing. And so you usually have to put limiters on it. That's one of the trade-offs. Unless you had pistons that had valve release, but I'm sure that Gen 4 4.8, it's a flat top piston if it's got a 799 head on it. I live 5 minutes from Cletus. What's he going to do for me? He's probably knows the places around there that would do machine work on LS motors, though. Private equity company seals. Richard, I'm doing an L92 swap, but I want to know if I can fit a cable operated intake manifold. I don't know what you're putting it in, but a cable throttle body, which is what you're going to put on there, should fit if a drive-by-wire one fits. I just don't know how it fits through your firewall and stuff because you got to run the throttle pedal and stuff. Frank, thanks. That was fun. That was a good interview. I liked it. Just got Texas Speed RV cam for LQ4. Nice. We'll stay in a 2500 truck. Wonder what a good engine rebuild kit to get. Federal mold, mix one with 30 over pistons to get for a friend. I honestly don't know. I don't have a whole bunch of experience in like complete rebuild kits. I don't know that I've ever tried one of those. Most of the stuff that we run when I run junkyard motors, we just run what's there. We take it apart and clean it and put it back together and use all the stuff that's there. I don't usually use rebuild kits. How do cup engines make 800 horsepower with only 358 inches? They actually make 900 or more with 358 inches, but they have really, really good cylinder. I mean, they do it with everything. If you look at a cup engine and you take it apart and dissect it, you'll see that everything is amazing. From what they do to the block to make it lightweight and structurally sound to everything. The cylinder heads are amazing. The intake manifold is amazing. They do it with lots of RPM. The valve train is amazing. The camshaft, all of that stuff is and you could make even more than that if you did it as a race motor where you weren't trying to have it last for 500 miles. So you can make even more power than that. Javier, it has valve reliefs, so it has an aftermarket piston in it, or does the VVT motor have valve reliefs? Like, because the LY6 is like that too. I forgot that they had valve reliefs on one of either the intake or the exhaust, right? One of them has valve reliefs in it. I was in private equity years and years ago. I can tell you those guys, for the most part, are relentless money grabbers. Many of them fire the managers, previous owners, as standard operating procedure. Will Porta 706 heads be a good idea? Yes. I don't think you're going to hurt yourself porting either one of those, but 706s will be fine. Cup engines have great cylinder heads and intakes. They do. Truck isn't super heavy or high horsepower as you see. Pretty annoyed with it eating converters. Yeah, that's it sounds like it's a converter quality problem and not that you're, overpowering them. I want to make it as easy as possible. It's my first swap and I don't want to use electric throttle body. Okay. Yeah, I like manual throttle bodies myself. I have one on my O2. General Foods and Hardee's private equity, Burger Chef. They bought Burger Chef only for the ice cream shake dispenser and closed them down. That's pretty ruthless. Richard, have you ever tested a true equal length turbo kit on your dyno? Same length headers and crossover versus a non-equal. So how would you make it the same? Are you talking about having headers and then having the Y pipe be the same versus one of them being longer than the other? I don't think you could measure the difference between one of those and the other one of those. I don't think it makes any difference at all. I think where you might benefit from that is if you had a divided housing and you took advantage of that by having equal length. But I think the equal length thing is overrated. Intake only, Javier. Okay. It's been my experience with private equity. The whole idea is to make as much profit. Yeah, we talked about that earlier. I kind of thought that was the case. And they still have rules. They can make 1,000 horsepower with no rules. Yeah, that's what I was saying. That if you let those guys build a drag race motor and not a cup motor with the limitations that they have on their camshafts and stuff, they could make even more power. Proven on imports and exhaust to pick up power. Donnie, what was your thing that is proven? It's proven on imports and exhaust to pick up power like Subarus. So you think having the tube lengths the same picks up power? I don't know why that would be the case. Too bad NASCAR can't regress, although it can progress back to their 20th century configuration. Yeah, I don't know what the compression limit is. And the equal length thing is like equal length headers and stuff. You're nitpicking stuff, and I don't know how you'd measure that on a turbo application. I don't see how you could even do that. I don't see how you could even measure a difference there. My guess is, I mean, I'm open to trying it, but given the changes that we've made and stuff, I just don't see that being a thing. And I'd like to see the Subaru proof. I'd like to see the back-to-back data. Because you're going to have to move the turbo. In the past, there's no compression rule on restrictor plate tracks. We run 17-1. Yeah, I remember the restrictor motors were really, really high compression. 90s NASCAR was cool for nothing else. Benny Parsons and Ned Jarrett were announcing. Yeah. So I can use an aluminum intake manifold and eliminate the electrical throttle body. I only need to use old wiring and a computer. It's L92 engine. Yeah, the manifold, you can use any manifold, anything that fits on an L92 engine. So that's a rec port one. So whatever manifold you want, you can use a composite one, you could use a factory one, a truck one, a LS3 car one, or any aftermarket version of that. And then you can put a manual throttle body on there, and then you just have to run a cable up to actuate the throttle body. The manifold has nothing to do with that. The manifold can accept either throttle body. It doesn't matter. I think equal length style is better than anything, but on boxers, they have a lot of equal and unequal length manifolds. Seem to spool differently. Yeah, I'd like to see the data on that to see if that's really happening, because there's a lot of subjectivity to things when people want things to happen and whether or not they really do happen. How do you make an LS perform like a cup motor? Well, you could have a cup team build and start with an LS platform. But if you look at a cup motor is not like a Chevy cup motor is not a Chevy motor. It's not. I don't think it has anything. I mean, you can ask Dan. I don't think it has anything from Chevrolet on it. I mean, it might have something from Chevrolet Performance, but none of it is small block Chevy. None of it is production small block Chevy based. My Silverado is only slightly lighter, similar dyno numbers. I race it and beat the snot out of it. Doesn't skip the beat. That truck has a single disc B&M 3800 stall. Makes no sense. No, Samu. Yeah, the intake manifold doesn't matter. That throttle body either throttle body will bolt right on. It's just 4 bolts. Equal length is easy. Make a collar of 1 inch in spheres. So wood, styrofoam, and measure equal length all the time. I think he's talking about equal length exhausts, which you're not going to make out of wooden styrofoam or whatever. Build it to run all day at 8,000 to 9,000. The last Chevy engine and cup was SB2P. Yeah, and even that was not. There's no production piece in that, right? An SB2 didn't have a production crank in it or production rods or production heads or anything, because an SB2 motor, an SB2 set of heads was not used on any production motor. Will 4.8 VVT be good for turbo, or would VVT delete it for a turbo looking for 600 to 650 horsepower? Probably either one of those will work. I've never tried a VVT cam with a turbo. I don't know why it wouldn't work. You don't need it for a turbo, so just put a little camshaft in it. For 600 horsepower on a 4.8 on a turbo, that's really easy. You should just put a little camshaft in it, and then put our GTX 3584 RS turbo on it, and it will easily do that. Might be turning closer to 10,000. 12 to 1. Some of the classes are 10 to 1. SB2 is probably the closest thing to anything available nowadays. SB2 had LS Tech in it. I don't know what LS Tech it would have had in it. I don't even think they had Beehive Springs or anything on the SB2 stuff. A lot of testing done with Hondas and Subarus in general. That an L runner would make more power and flatter torque curve. Looking to rich. Even the Corvettes have. Oh, L is equal length exhaust systems versus trucks. I've done lots of equal length shorty headers versus non-equal length shorty headers, and there's absolutely zero difference in power. So I have looked into it, and we've run lots of header tests, and the equal length thing is not a thing. Thoughts on AFR LS3 enforcers, small runners and smaller valves, makes more torque compared to what? Compared to stock ones? I'm open to, I'm open for any kind of test data, and I would be happy to look at it. But in all the testing that I've done with the equal length shorties versus non-equal length and stuff, and then equal length headers, equal length headers look cool, but they are a pain. The equal length headers, like for the 5-liter Mustangs, were awful because they just burn plug wires. Because to make them equal length, they're just in the way of stuff, and they offered zero power change. So it was, not that a shorty header adds a bunch of power anyways, compared to a stock exhaust manifold. It's just not good. Do it, Rich, please. The big thing on even LS turbo kits on Facebook threads. Yeah, it's not. I can tell you, it's not a big thing. People can argue about things all they want. It's like the dimple pistons are a really big thing too. That's not a thing people need to be arguing about. Let's get some more Gen 5 LT1 tech. Equal length probably makes for a slightly hotter engine bay too. I don't know that would do anything. Don't understand when you say a small camshaft, is that low lift or small duration? For me, it's usually both of those, but for me, it's more duration. The bigness of the camshaft is the duration number, because you can have a 550 lift cam that's 200 degrees of duration. That's not a big cam. You can have a 550 lift cam that's 240 degrees of duration at 50. That's a big cam. So for me, duration is more tells what's going on with the cam. I'm running stock exhaust manifolds on my Turbo 5.3 built, but having to customize my rear manifold. Is 2 inches enough for my crossover tube merging into 2.5 into the T4? Will it spool pretty quickly? Yeah, I don't know that you'd be more worried about the other end of that. Is 2 inches too small, and is it going to be restrictive? It's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be helpful for response rate. It might. Dimples in cylinder head ports. Yeah, dimples in everything. Dimples on the outside of the car, and dimples on the inside of the car, and dimples on the intake manifold, and dimples on connecting rods and whatever. Header dyno tests are pretty much a waste of time. Get the right diameter tubing and maybe a step and be done with it. Yeah, I tried lots of different headers. In fact, I was just thinking about that today. Is running one of the big things on and out in the LS world is 1 3/4 versus 1 7/8 headers. Oh, I had a guy tell me 1 7/8 headers are worth 20 horsepower over 1 3/4. I'm like, they absolutely are not. I've run that test 10 times on different motors, different displacements and different power outputs and stuff. And I've not seen anything like that. I've seen very little difference between those two headers. But those are only the two specific headers that we had. And the only reason I tested them because we had them there. We didn't build them for any specific test. We just happened to have an 1 7/8 set of LS headers, and the set of 1 3/4 LS headers, and then compared them because it was easy to bolt them on and off. Elston tested a log header against the best cup header and only lost 7 horsepower. Well, and so we have seen big changes in power. One of the things that happened was we were running a big block, and the guys from Burns actually came over and built a header because they brought all the stuff to build a header, and they built a header. I think using their Burns has some sort of program, an exhaust program, to tell you, and they built it for this motor. And we just ran our headers that, I say we, Westech ran the headers that they had, that they're just headers that just say header on them, basically. And they're headers that they use for the engine dyno. And when they put the fancy Burns ones on, they lost like 40 horsepower. And that's the most I've ever seen from a header deal. It lost. And they were eventually able to get it back by redesigning the header. But, it just goes to show you. Let's see. Have you done any focus testing looking at exhaust turbine pressure versus boost to see where things get really unhappy with big versus little cams? How are you affecting the back pressure with cams? What I have seen in the testing that I've done is that when you put a camshaft in that makes more NA power, you get more back pressure. Not because of cam timing. You get more back pressure because the motor now produces more exhaust flow because it's making more NA power. So more NA power equates to more back pressure relative to the boost pressure. So I don't know. This cam timing thing has me a little perplexed. You've done a video testing on dimple pistons. I haven't, because I think that if it did something, it would probably do something maybe more on a diesel, but even the diesel piston guys that I talk to are wondering what's going on with that, like how it works. 3-inch exit if I run rear exhaust, 4-inch exit if I run hood exhaust. Is there a standard spec to port and mill 799 heads, or it's just running, just testing until good numbers? To port them, you have to be a really good head porter, and then you have to, while you're porting, if you're learning porting, you should learn from somebody that's really, really good at it. And then you have to be at a flow bench, and then you port it, and then you flow test it, and then you port it, and then you flow test it, you port it, you flow test it. Pretty soon, I think what happens is you start getting no gains really, and you're like, okay, there can I get to. And the nice thing with LS heads like those is you look at what other people have done and go, oh, these guys are getting over 300 CFM at 600 or 650 lift. Okay, so if I'm at 258, I'm not doing very good on my porting, and so the porting part of it is hard because you can easily ruin the heads too by over porting them or throwing off the short turn radius and stuff. What about 2-inch headers? I have tested those. I've tested 2-inch headers on, I think that the test I did it on was a modular Ford, and it was like an 800 horsepower supercharged modular Ford. And we ran 1 3/4, 1 7/8, and 2-inch headers on that. And the 2-inch headers did make the most power of those. And I think it was, I want to say it was 20 or 25 better, maybe something like that. I have a 1990 LA 360 open chamber 308 heads. I have the Mopar performance porting template. If the heads are not cracked, are they worth porting? Your porting, if it's done properly, will improve the flow, and so that improves the power potential. Do you have the rest of the stuff on the motor to take advantage of what additional head flow? So let's say you ported and you picked up 25 CFM. Does the motor need that? Does it have some sort of restriction somewhere else? Is it a low compression motor and has a stock camshaft in it? And then I wouldn't port the heads. If you don't have the other things to go along with it, I wouldn't worry about porting them. If you're going to port them and make them work, don't go through the push rod pinch, because that's the closeness, that's the spot on those Mopar heads. But if you're going to port them, concentrate on the bowl area and the transition from the seat to the bowl. And then I guess the short turn, I'm not a porter, but that's usually where the things are. And don't worry about gasket matching it and do that stuff. That's the least amount of gain. Post any 351 questions. Dan will try to help. I'll ask for your cam for Christmas. Looking forward to the 212 sweetness. That'll be good. LS1 NA max horsepower. What is that, a question, or are you wanting to know how to do that, or are you asking what I've done, or what's the thing? What's the theory on dimple pistons? What problem is this supposed to solve? That's my question to the people that were doing it. I'm like, what does it do? How does it achieve? What does it change? Does it change? Are you creating, like, if there was a pattern to it? I'm like, yeah, it's creating mixture motion. It's like swirling the stuff around. I would want to know what it does. I think that any increase of flow through the exhaust valve would find a little more back pressure. So how do you think you are increasing flow through the exhaust? Big overlap duration, letting high back pressure adversely affect flow from the engine. So you're thinking that overlap in a cam allows back pressure to flow back and hurt inlet flow? Is that what you're talking about? And then how much is too much? Where does that start happening? Because overlap, if it makes more NA power, it also makes more power under boost. Rich is the guy who tells you Santa isn't real and kills all of this and once you believe it. Just the car version of this. No, I believe he is real. And I believe he drives a really cool sleigh. And he does sleigh. And he had you guys reporting. Yeah, any factory one is going to be better. We had some top fuel heads that flowed over 700. Back and said, run them. Yeah, just put more nitromethane in there. Do decapped LS injectors work for a boost build or will it respond? It depends. There are two sides to that. Decapped injectors that are done properly and flow tested and matched, they work very well. In fact, that's what a lot of injectors are. So that works very well. Ones that are done, like if you did 8 of them and they didn't all match and they didn't flow the same and you put them in a motor and try to run them, that's not going to work very well. Santa sled is a twin turbo LS. At least Santa's kind of old school. He might be a big block guy. Dan, you'll think that this is funny, I'm sure, because you know about this older stuff. That I had a guy tell me how much better the 427 aluminum big blocks were than any of the modern LS aluminum blocks. I'm like, dude, you're so. I said, look, I'm a big fan of L88s and LZL1s and all this. I said, I'm a big fan. All the Reynolds stuff, all the Can-Am stuff, that's all fantastic. I love it. But those are not on par with a 2020 aluminum factory LS motor. I said, a previous than the LT stuff. I said, it's not even close. So I thought you would think that that's funny. Because I'm like, yeah, those things were really porous. They had some issues. Big fan, but very porous. And there was much porosity in the kingdom. There. Porosity, not good. They didn't know what they didn't know. Even the alloy was bad. Yeah, and I was wondering about that. When you're talking about, this is like, that's probably the first time that they did big block aluminum blocks, right? So if it's the first time they're doing it, you know that they learned stuff from then. So yeah. I'm like, dude, I love you and I want your big block thing to be everything that you think it was. I said, but it's just not. It's not really that. Like the small block guys were like that too. Oh, you can't make anything to compete with the DZ302. I'm like, any 5.3 in the wrecking yard will do that. We'll do everything that does, except make about 30 more foot-pounds of torque. It's just going to do it at a low RPM. When has private equity ever helped an automobile company? Maybe 1 out of 100 times. I don't know. I don't know what the history of that is because I don't know the ins and outs of all that. I don't know. I don't have any top secret information or insight into any of that stuff, into Holly or whoever. I don't know any of that stuff. But I think that a lot of people are pre-complaining about something that hasn't happened yet. Some of the old Winners Foundry stuff would rot away through electrolysis by looking at them wrong. Yeah, and because they had problems with the L88 and the L89 heads too, I think that those were kind of porosity nightmares as well. But and whoever pointed out the L20 thing and the VVT deal, thank you for doing that, because I think that that's awesome. I think that was Javier. So thank you for enlightening me, because I know I've had people tell me that you know everything about LSs. I'm like, no, I don't. I didn't even know that an L20 had VVT, that you can have a Gen 4 VVT motor that's a 4.8. Because that, to me, I mean, we know that the 6 liters and 6.2s and stuff, they had VVT. But the fact that a 4.8 had VVT is way more exciting to me than the other bigger motors. Time for a second glass. Okay. Big Rich, well, what's those cam specs for the 30/400 small block Chevy with the old school Dart Iron Eagles? What are you talking about? Something that I built? I just hope that private equity companies still want to innovate and help the aftermarket. Yeah. Heads intake back in the day, you filled the heads up with water glass to keep them from leaking, and the aluminum heads were super soft. I remember the guys at WestTech, Rick and Steve, were telling me about stuff that they did with the brownfield heads when they first came out. It's basically going to be airflow research stuff. And they had leaky problems too when they first came out, because they all did, because you're just learning, you're just learning about stuff. They're like, yeah, we want to run these aluminum heads instead of these fuely heads that everybody had. And they're like, yeah, they're leaking. They're leaking again. Still great testing data. And no, with LS, have you encouraged all my LS decisions so far? I can't say I've been steered wrong. Yeah, I will help if we can. There's lots of good people here that can help. If it's not me, it could be somebody. Because there's a lot of good information out, and getting everybody together to talk about all the good information is cool stuff. Mickey Thompson, aluminum casting for the Pontiac 421 required a bath and a solution to fill the something. See cutter performance speak on a cam for a 406 from you. I've heard of low LSA cams you did years ago. I need the cam specs. Yeah, I still don't know what you're talking about. My dad thinks me going 30,000 on the ring is a bad thing. That is a lot, but it will still work. I've done that. I've done more than that. And I did more than that on the, I'm sure we did more than that on a 5.3. So 35, like 32 to 35,000 on a 5.3 is really bad, because it's only a 3,780 bore. It's not even a 4-inch bore like the 6 liter. I know. Is it a 5-inch bore? Yeah, that does happen. The Pontiac stuff, the Mickey Thompson Pontiac stuff, that's very cool. Did it have any smoke? No, not on the dyno. It was fine. And the nice thing is, after you run boost on it, run 10, 20 pounds on it, it seals right up. I've done 32 to 34. That's good. No smoke. Yeah, I haven't. It didn't seem to chug any more than. I mean, it was a wrecking yard motor to begin with, so I don't know how much you want. This L33 has smoked more than the other ones. Seems to be better now, though. They don't want all the smoke. Got 2 more minutes. What's the most you boost you recommend? A 408 single turbo 480 setup? You should just be mindful of the transmission and stuff. The 4.8, the stock bottom end 4.8 with ring gap will take a lot of power. So not just boost, but it'll make a lot of power. The first 4.8 that I did, we ran 28 pounds, I think. Fix it with boost. That's right. It seals everything up. And nitrous does that too. When we run nitrous on motors, after you run a few pulls of nitrous, it seals up better. I think Brule and I wanted to do a like a vacuum test or a leak down test or something after it, because they seal up better. See, that's why boost is always better. Yeah, the transmission will break before the engine does. Yeah, if and it's a hard thing to get people to understand. They think that there's a boost level that things will take, and there's not. That's not a thing. If you have everything right, and that's why I did the Big Bang things. If you have everything right, you have the right air temperature going into the motor, you have the right air fuel, you have the timing is super critical. You have the right timing, you have the right octane for all this stuff. And in our case, we didn't overdo the torque, because on the smaller motors, the 4.8 and 5.3, we just had a rising boost curve. If you do that, they will take way more power, as the Big Bang will attest to. They'll take way more power than people think. But everything has to be right. But at 7 pounds, you can also detonate it and kill it. At NA, you can detonate it and kill it. So it's easy to hurt it. Nitrous is too expensive. You have to pick between a high lift cam low duration and low lift cam high duration. Which would you pick? I wouldn't pick those two things. The lift and the duration do completely different things. I would pick the right cam for the thing that I'm trying to achieve. If you want to make 600 horsepower, go get a BTR, and we can even sell it to you because we're a dealer. Go get a BTR torque cam for a 4.8. Get a 202 torque cam and put that in. You could even do it with a stock cam. You can make 600 with a stock cam without any problem at all. But with a BTR torque cam, you could put that in there and run that, and it's 500 lift. And you could use it with stock. I would put 550 springs in it, or ours are 560 springs. Put those in there, run that cam, and then run boost, and you'll be happy. It'll be great. With a 6-liter aluminum with a set of 862 heads, what cam would you recommend? Everyday driver would like as much torque as possible. You should run our low buck truck cam, but you don't have flat top pistons in that motor, do you? Because flat top pistons in those heads are going to be pretty high static compression. Did the 862s go with? Did the 862s go with square port or even 243 799s? School hearing on the Street Alpha thing, schooling a new crowd on the ways of low buck power. Yeah, the motor that he did. Well, the whole he did that Supra with an RB in it, which pissed people off, which is awesome. That was not a low dollar build. Flat tops and 862s are going to be really high static compression on a 6-liter. So like Donnie was saying, 799s or rec port heads. I mean, any of those will be fine. But you probably would want less static compression, because if you're just driving it around, and especially if you're in a truck or something, you have to worry about detonation. And then it's not going to be fun if you have to take a bunch of timing out to make it not detonate. On that note, it's Friday night. It is time to go. Thank you guys all for showing up. You guys have a good Friday, and I'll be back tomorrow.